Blog Talk Radio.
Dr. Jobs, thank you again. I've been looking forward to this since Friday.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah. Well, see, we've had a lot of interest in Atlantis and things, and then people are getting a bit more of an idea of the possibility of panspermia and how does life get jump-started. But anyway, it's time that people have their milk and cookies and they just sit back to relax just a little, as we talk a little bit about this. But it's so amazing because, you've got lots of elements that are formed on the Earth and new organic materials and things are fused as a result of a lot of these impacts and things. And you've got monatomic iodine and magnesium and fluorine. And these elements are really, really water-loving. And any dehydration that occurs, it's so water-loving that fluorine, magnesium, and iodine, they leave with the water because they go where the water is flowing, you see. And you've got to have fluorine, magnesium, and iodine in its monatomic state. And this, as we've been talking about, is elements that smaller than 9 atoms. That's amazing because when you've got something which is only 9 atoms in its monatomic state, and it can't really be joined with something else to be covalent, and it acts as an oscillating circuit of itself and can pick up the smallest vibration and hold this entrainment as water does, and as tiny little hollow spheres do, where there's a water covering around everything, even in the desert. But you've got monatomic element and things, and you've got a life colloid, which is a colloid of life that have aggregated into spores, and these colloid of life are tiny little electric arcs in the ether that have collected together and form into a donut shape. And that is the colloid of life, and all life we see around us is made up out of this material. And that colloid of life seems like it doesn't move around a lot, or seems to be not necessarily directional or something, but when it joins with other colloids of life, it becomes a life colloid as a spore. And we can see this growing protein and it's separating itself from its environment. It has the ability to be able to reproduce itself and in environment and grow and repair and recognize and remember things. And these are life colloid, and they join with other spores and cause double spores to form. And this is the primary building block of all tubular structure at a microscopic level. And this is what life is really composed of. And life colloid can hitchhike right across cosmic space in low-pressure eddies. And it's amazing that they did this without any fossil fuel necessary. And they used these low-pressure eddies to hitchhike across space, and no fossil fuel expenditure, of course. And you've got lithophilic life colloid, and lithophilic means rock eating, and they snack on rocks, just like modern people today could have snacked on potato chips. And they love snacking on rocks, And anyway, these are lithophilic life colloid, rock-eating life colloid, and which we have found the evidence of on meteorites from outer space and things. But we'll talk a bit about this. You've got lithophilic life colloid, rock-eating life colloid, and the Chicxulub meteorite impact That's about 180 kilometre impact in the Yucatan Peninsula in the Caribbean, and at least 10 metre across 30-foot chunks can have easily been allowed with live colloid on board to survive the velocity, and some really were able to survive the G-force, the 10,000 G accelerator force, which is being launched up and into outer space. And of course, we could imagine this right now because we've seen visual pictures of what happened to Jupiter, And recently that asteroid, that Shoemaker asteroid, plunged into Jupiter, and we witnessed it. And of course, but when we could think about things like this, we saw an enormous amount of impact the days afterward as some of this came and impacted. But much of it was blowing enormously way out into outer space. And you've got certainly life colloid, which can exist in outer space, and fungus and things that grows quite nicely. And you've got large organisms on the Earth. The largest is 2,200 acres big. So that's a pretty big organism. That's living in Oregon. That's probably one of the biggest living organisms on the Earth that we know about. And it's at least 600 million years old. And such life collects information, you see, and it learns how to respond. And it's like an internet hub consciousness, open sourced today. You can just get it, you know what I mean? And it's a hub of consciousness on the Earth, and mold and fungus, as life colloid, allow life and death too numerously, of course, to pass through itself, and it remains of its consciousness, you see. And sweet spots absolutely do exist in outer space, where very complex organic molecules have been discovered. And one can find the signature of even Russian vodka out there. And you can find methanol and things such like this. An extreme aphilic life colloid living on the edge of life can exist in outer space. And on smaller solar system bodies, life colloid can lay dormant. They travel a really long way before finding their ideal or expressed symbiotic niche. And rocks looked at, with recognizable life in it, can be dated to be no younger, certainly, than 3.8 billion years old. And life colloid spore easily survive the radiation and the heat, the chemicalizing, and being cut with diamond knife. You've got to look into the secrets of an alkaline body. Marvelous reading about this. But anyway, core samples, of ice that have been taken on Earth here, they can go back through the ages, and 12,000 feet down, life colloid have been present, and also in boiling hot springs and ocean vents, and cosmic dust does have complex organic compounds in it. And life colloidal payloads, certainly launched by large impact, can easily get to another planet at least 100 light years away. All needed is only 1 million years to have passed on Earth. And for such a feat to exist, life colloid, of course, cyanobacteria survived the heat shield of space re-entry vehicles, having returned to Earth from being in outer space. stars that we know in our galaxy and even the galaxies neighbouring combined. But life certainly has survived heavy bombardment, and life has certainly survived the meteorite and asteroid impacts. And, humans are here and other animals. And Earth has been, and through multiple epochs, symbiosis, mutual lived assistance, and biogenesis. And life can have become jump-started as we know it as a result of the moon capturing event that occurred around 180 million years ago, when these alien forms of life and life colloid continue to form and arrive, and also, being incubated right now and delivered, and again into outer space. But Earth is an example of being in an open and not closed system, and that life as we know it really has arrived, and new forms of life, of course, is now sort of really being discovered. And some of these life, of course, they're really far too small to have any DNA or any any DNA or RNA. Like, for instance, the nanoarchaeota. No universal primers certainly are applied to detect all life, nor could we rule out life colloid in another form. Yet, Judd's cell rejuvenation, that's a really great work for people to read a little more about this and everything. But life colloid really interact in the soil and produce the blood of the earth. And the blood of the life colloid happens to have a central molecule in it, just like the blood of humans and plants. And the central molecule in bacteria happens to be aluminium. And that aluminium has the ability to breathe. There's very few elements on the periodic chart actually breathe, but then aluminum does, and that happens to be in bacteria, which perfectly have a colour of a silvery grey to reflect all cosmic energy as much as possible to themselves of the wavelength. And then you've got a sort of grey, very shiny, silvery type of substance that's magnesium, and that also breathes and has a light and dark and warm and cold cycle, and that is magnesium in plants and forms the central molecule of its blood, chlorophyll. And then you've got iron in animals, and that iron also breathes in the same way and is in the central element of the molecule, and that causes a macro, micro, cycling, timing mechanism to be in the organic molecule and things, and locked really, really deep inside the earth and enfolded over and subducted and occasionally pushed up life colloid and even little water bears, 8-legged little bears, tiny little bears can survive in suspended animated form for thousands and thousands of years, and with a little bit of water get busy again. But every 12,000 and sometimes also sooner, Nibiru certainly is found on the very same side of the Earth when it passes, and it incurs the Earth to roll over just a little bit, and a new pole is formed. You can just imagine a beach ball rolling along, and then all of a sudden someone sits on it, and a new equator is pushed out and the poles are all pushed down in, and the Earth rolls over a little bit, and then the Earth is pushed in and subducted and pushed out to form a new water also, which is a meniscus. It's sort of travelling around with the Earth as it's spinning. And you could just imagine somebody a bit carelessly getting into a bath and sloshing water all over the place, you know. And this is the sort of thing that's certainly gone on, absolutely, that Darwin and Hegel absolutely could not consider to have come up with the dating of the Earth the way they have, which is completely wrong. But anyway, that's another story. The new pole is forming, sometimes always completely reversed, and sometimes rotating more, from the east than the west. You know, so it's pretty amazing, isn't it? All this, but certainly you've really got life that exists in frozen and protected and radiated and also protected from radiation, and you've got radio-resistant D-radiodurans, which completely converts radioactivity into gold and precious metal found in the water around the reactors of these nuclear reactors and things. And you've got plenty of evidence of life perfectly existing radiation and that. And also endogenous made interior and exogenous made exterior, delivered and impact shock resistant and thereby synthesized organic molecule from these impacts. And then you've got morphogenetic field, which we've been talking a bit about, which is the blueprint, and we've been talking about the formation of consciousness in our programs past that people could really avail themselves of in the universe inside our mind. And you only really need a dissipative environment coexisting of a multitude of dissimilar elements existing together as Earth's atmosphere does. And you've got every life form breathing the atmosphere that we have. We only have 4 weeks of oxygen with us at any one period of time. We're hurtling through space, and we just are really manufacturing 4 weeks of oxygen. That's all we have at any one period of time on hand. And, of course, you know, with these impacts and things, you get large amounts of soil being deposited, even from Mars and this sort of thing. And certainly like the jarosite that exists in the Martian soil, and also in Spain, you've got microbes that are similarly living off and eating ferric iron. Life colored eats this pyrite, and trees are a connection to the earth and the heavens, and the oak moss and the mistletoe, and all of these things really connect consciousness by a direct earth and cosmic connection. But everything really is connected to everything else and is very important, you know. But we've been talking just a tiny bit about the bone, you know, in the skull, called the ethmoid organ, and that is festooned with the body's own monatomic lodestone crystal. And this really beautifully orientates and stabilizes the electromagnetic signaling and anchoring patterning, just as a compass does a ship. And the ethmoid assists just as a navigational equipment does set sails and the rudder, and senses. Is fed as information into the vestibular system, which orientates ourselves in space, and we can find our way through a maze, and you have a really excellent ethmoid function. Otherwise, you could have been functioning in the past a bit with a rudderless ship. But a very smooth, beautiful oblong bone plate, you know, forms the lateral surface of this ethmoid labyrinth. It beautifully forms the medial wall and the orbital bone behind the back of the nose here, and it's a perfect gyrostatic compass that, in good stead, can allow one to have a beautifully, have the ability to be able to have diametrically opposed ideas, and yet still have the ability to hold a thread through all of this. And this gyroscopic compass allows us to be able to do this. Are you with me, Lukey?
I'm on the edge of my seat, as always, Dr. Job.
Well, and so we still sort of really can hold a track and yet be integrated in our feelings and our hearing and our seeing. And galactic explosions, these things are natural occurrences, just the same as volcanoes and the life cycle of a human. And the galactic explosions are really now occurring right now on the other side of our galaxy. And in only 1/10 of a second that's passed, it's released more energy in that small amount of time than our whole solar sun has done in the last 100,000 years. In that just tiny split piece of a second. But also that celestial incursions and only impact these celestial incursions, though they've occurred in the past, they won't impact us until the future. And so that is amazing. And then it's possible for people to learn really how to be able to read the future more by reading things. But holy dirt, this life colloid that we have, is so incredible and has such an amazing array of all these elements, which we can be talking a bit about. Hopefully we'll get into this. But there was an anticipated explosion, of course, of SN1987A as a sun, and this is really now acting as a component of our galactic cosmic pineal gland and causing a luminosity to be, which really is affecting the inner eye of our galaxy and ourselves. And the next to go is Etna Carina, and that is known since ancient times as the seventh seal of light, being now present. And these super suns that we have eventually go supernova, and space is compressed and expanded and not uniform. And light being now really present here, and it's possible for people to really get hold of a manual for being able to protect their DNA and in their life forms and protect each other. But going beyond prefix set patterns of response to survive, to complete, your beingness here. But holy dirt really is of the earth, and this is our solid connection to the cosmos, this blood, this earth, and it has water, which is as old as the universe, as a carrier of information, and it has gaseous element as oxygen and air, which is really a path of least resistance, as you have this, which really is like a metaphor of the absence of thought and obsessions and things. And otherwise, you've got a bit of class warfare and all of that sort of stuff going on in the mind and things, and fiction having run everything. But then fire really is this transformation, and what's not useful gets cleared away, and things which is useful sort of remains. And holy dirt really is composed mostly of an abundant form of these monatomic elements, which are involved in superconduction in our body. And there's an ether where you really could say these monatomic elements are a connector to this ether, where you're really having a beautiful awareness of a oneness. And where two could have been and three, where one was, you could see one coming back to be now, more so with yourself. But anyway, this is really learning. We've been talking a bit about being more able to dehypnotize yourself, and dehypnotization, and learning how to be nobody again rather than trying to be somebody. And cosmic dark matter really does assist our brain cells act much more as one neuron. And, of course, a whole brain patterning where both hemispheres cycling as one creates a greater amplitude of electricity that's available in the body. But anyway, I mean, walking on water really is thinking disappeared. And having holy dirt in your garden that you're wrapped around really can assist you, and everyone with this. But you've got an antenna beautifully for information from the furthest reaches of outer space, deep inside yourself, and the voices of your digestion, of course, is often the voice of deep outer space. But you've got magnetism and magnetization and bar magnets, of course, and these are made out of more ferrous iron. And then you've got diatomic magnetism, and you've got the diatomic element, which is larger than 9-atom cluster, crystallized, and then you've got sort of magnetism in a bar ferrous iron. And ferrous iron like that, which is from contamination from pipes, from air, from house dust, from water, from heaters, and from shower water and things, from all sorts of contaminated iron, which is in its crystallized larger than 9-atom state. It itself is very magnetic and really does interfere radically with this gyroscopic compass that we have inside ourselves. And it is very interesting that a lot of these synthetics are mixed with a ferrous iron, which absolutely does show in a lot of these people to be toxic. And so when they have that, it can cause them for some moment to not necessarily have their bearing. And then states of this could be occurred with transient states of amnesia when people wake in a new place and things. And then there's all sorts of degrees of this, really. But while monatomic element is present, as it is in live food, as it is also in live colloid, and this white gold and other things, you've got a really beautiful quantum mechanical effect. A monatomic element that's found in Jupp's live colloid probiotic, for instance, and the soil-borne organisms assist us to have, as does beautifully platinum, rhodium, ruthenium, and all these very gorgeous monatomic elements. And they're really extraordinary second neighbor sort of interaction types of phenomenon in the lattice of the behavior of these monatomic elements and the interaction with DNA. But you can imagine a holographic 3D image being projected as a result of this life form versus just consuming or seeing a printed photo copy of a page of paper or something, in comparison. But molecules in colloidal biology really derived and incurred and impregnated by spatial relations, and by being mutual interaction, there's a dissipative structure where vibrational motion and rotation and fragrance and attraction and flavor and these force fields on this level are incurred, and asteroid travel and meteorites and things and all do really affect the flavor of things. And people will remark that the year that a comet passed, the flavor of fruits and things was so increased so enormously. But molecular biology is yet really to apply colloidal biological quantum mechanics and deep insight into life and consciousness itself, yeah. But anyway, the heart's percussion really adds the dimension. We've been talking a bit about this. I think it's beautiful for us to backtrack just a little bit about the things we've gone over in past program, just a little. But the heart percussion really does add dimension to you, and so does your eyes visually. And these both, Einstein momentum is incurred where quasi-particles, meaning like seemingly invisible particles, possess magnetic fields, and lattice vibration really qualified by sound, and optical, meaning light effect, creating dispersion and attraction relations of this cosmic luminal matter that's faster than the speed of light, which is weightless. And this monatomic photoelectric effect really that's being incurred in the body and life, we really have a three-dimensional holographic reality more as a living Christ. And this is you inside that has this beautiful warmth and blood. This goes beyond just sort of simple flatland perception to superconduction happening more now inside you, and you're having the wilderness inside. You have necessary intelligence encoded in DNA, or you could have had a desert in your intestinal garden, a wasteland of nothing, where green really is growing. You've got life colloid probiotic, and this is a beautiful operative superconductor, and it has a positive energy on all, and it's unlike sort of just normal matter, that it does have such a positive energy on all, Lukey. Yeah. How are we doing, mate?
Amazing.
But this monatomic element, which is found in Jubb's white gold and magnesium, fluorine, and iodine and supplement, and found in various plants and biology, certainly is not the same from something mined and played around with to create some orbitally rearrangedness, because there really is no doctor which is improved upon babies with a syringe, and, you know, there really isn't a chef that's improved upon the apple. But you've got these beautiful elements in monatomic elements in a negative energy density, also having zero gravitational attraction and warp time between space and time interactedness, where you've got very high spin state perpetually being and exchanges of energy from one to another freely without any friction. The monatomic element is not of a nature where any part really is present here and now, and another certainly ever more deeper and eternally present as empty space. I mean, whoa, this is amazing. But you've got your slow wave sleep patterning. We've been talking a bit about that, That's what releases tryptamine. You really got to have your tryptamine. But this is really what connects the brain stem with the neocortex by way of the pyramidal cells. And tryptamines happen to be the most abundant neurochemical in nature and in our brain. And monatomic element not seen because of its disappeared state of being weightless and resisting gravity, so it's disappeared and only can sometimes be found as a result of having a long burn of 3 minutes, which has been found recently, but you had to have material that would last a long burn to discover, these elements, which eventually then did oxidize and burn. So they're more recent sort of discoveredness, and then when you use three-dimensional pieces of equipment to look in at it, the X-ray harmonies that are around the atom, the positons and electrons are paired into Cooper pairs and are moving faster than light. And so these third-dimensional pieces of equipment can't really see those bands. It's like a propeller that's going so fast that someone might not have noticed it, to be kept safe. They could have just looked straight through and maybe not even necessarily seen that the propeller was there. Things were going so fast. But you've got this slow wave sleep patterning that assists to help to release tryptophan and things to help make serotonin, and you've got a diatomic element crystallized to have form and caused toxic element to have knocked out sort of magnetics and things, proper magnetics. You've got monatomic element being oxidized and not really being brought in, or intestinal tract production through biological transmutation. And so then lucid dreaming ability, which we have, as you do the white gold people report this straight away. And you've got 7 and even 8, as we've been talking, harmonics of light that are tapped cyclically with a cyclical luminosity. You've got slow wave sleep patterning that's occurring as you sleep at night. This is equivalent to the patterned and orderly amount of wakefulness that preceded what that was in the last circadian cycle that was yesterday. And you've got core body temperature and improvement. And these are all the sorts of things that really do incur as people do bring in the life colloid probiotic and start to clear away bile occlusion and learn about how to do this. But it certainly does improve dramatically our pineal function, and that secretes the necessary information molecule, incurring a photosensitive phase shifting memory processing ability. Yeah. But the mother molecule in nature, which is right there in the life colloid, is pro-opiomelanocortin, POMC, and that is the parent molecule in the body that's incurred by these 4 light seal areas in the pineal gland, where necessary cleavage molecule is supplied to that very large amino acid chain, which is 285 amino acid polypeptide sequenced hormone precursor. And this pro-opiomelanocortin mother molecule can really only be present as a result of proper precursor element being produced in the gut. So where you've got inflammation of the gut, where you've got excess of tannins and things, you've really got the possibility of having had a bushfire to have taken out parent molecule from the body, and that then that would undergo by cleavage post-transitional tissue specific essentials and things for vital brain and body health. So there's a very, very amazing connection between the brain of the gut and the brain upstairs, our cosmic connection, light, and the cycles of incurredness to create orderliness as we have it here on Earth. And every single biophotonutrient that's existing, presently known, has been found in 1 gram of holy dirt, even pro-opiomelanocortin, this exotic molecule that's made by our pineal gland. But so another very, very exotic element which we could learn more about and avail ourselves of is telomerase. And telomerase is found also abundantly in Jubb's life colloid probiotic, and that gives you just the most amazing and dramatic youthing ability, and gives this to any organism that does have the telomerase, because it repairs the DNA helixes with their full helix. And life colloid probiotic giving you a great dramatic using ability where telomerase abounds, you've really got a most amazing ability, for rejuvenation and longer life, Lukey, Yeah. How we doing, mate? Good?
I feel like a kid.
Yeah. Well, these life colloid probiotics, everyone needs to look into this more and bring some in. This is what is the difference between a wilderness and domestication, you see. But these probiotics have a cyclotronic, meaning circular nature, that produce enzyme telomerase that repair and rejuvenate caps on the tids of chromosomes. So in DNA and RNA, you've got a great assist in this and maintaining of a system of faithful production of protein to maintain proper self-functioning. But telomere-really based chromosome protection really is a beautiful, exotic effect found in Jugs Life Colloid Probiotic and Life Colloid on the outside of vegetables unwashed. And such molecular transitional intelligence really is existing within this holy dirt. And you've got actinobacteria, which is the free living soil-borne organism, a very, very large. That's something which I've studied a lot because it's so large in cell microscopy and biology. It's quite large to observe because it has very large, rich genomes and things to observe and things that show up. And then you've got very long terminal inverted sort of repeated chromosomal caps that are easily able to be observed, seen, and that have covalent bound terminal proteins specialized sort of in telomerase. And so resolvase is produced by our intestinal flora and is encoded on circular plasmid bodies and incur a perpetual ability to repair itself and maintain itself. And then as you've got your orderliness and you've got your 432 frequency, and you've been learning more about this and applying it, you've got rid of your 440 hertz cycle around you, which is being used to control. Of course, troops on a bridge can really only cross over the bridge, but if they broke their marched rhythm, they'd get across. Otherwise, there'd be a great deep influenceness of a resonance, and that could have brought the bridge down. But you and I, we really have these beautiful 12 overtones, which is supposed to be there. If you've only got your 440 music and things that's been ever there present, you've only ever been subject to 8 overtones, and that's really poor in comparison. Your brain really has to resonate at a 432 hertz cycle, and that then, as this is incurring now, you really have beautifully sound and light traveling within you. And I think as we sort of wrap our program up just a little bit, humans really being trained, of course, and vaccinated and obeyed, and phantomized by this hand above the government, and only really caring to control by fear, and MSG and ACS and BIS and all of this capitals is in all caps is really nothing natural, yet really is just the head, a little bit of an octopus. But you and I, we can do everything we can to be looking inside ourselves to find integration and this beautiful peace and orderliness, and that we could look outside and we could stop thinking that we could find it out there somewhere, but that the world certainly isn't as good a place as what it can be for us, and we should be doing everything we can to use as good a place as what it can be for us, and we should be doing everything we can to use as good a place as what it can be for us, and we should be doing everything we can to use as good a place